Nope.
What, you don't know tech?
You have to know technology to publish a book that we wrote.
Yeah.
We're live. All right.
Hey.
Woo!
So sorry. All right. Yeah. Had to make it all work again, but now we're good. Now,
Ah,
yep. You see it, Caden? You see that we're
yes.
actually live?
Yes, I am going to
Share this with
copy
the
this.
world.
Let's do it.
All right. All right. My, I'll change the thumbnail later, but we're live. All right. All right. All right. Let me also, I'm just going to, there we go. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to Person Behind the Pages, the show where we get to know the people that make the things we love. Today is a special day. I'm joined by a bunch of friends, and we're all celebrating that the man of the hour, Mr. Kaden Love, has launched his debut novel today. Woo! Congratulations,
Hey,
Caden.
thank you,
Congratulations,
thank you.
man.
Yay! I like to, I silly it up. I hope that, you guys have already understood this. But Caden, man, killing it, dude. You launched it today, but of course you had your Kickstarter that's gone on for at least like a few weeks leading up to this.
Yeah,
How has it been? How's it feel? Are you feeling like uh thrilled, relieved, nervous to get reviews? What's going on, Caden? How's it been today?
definitely a little nervous to get reviews. Excited. The Kickstarter is like now that it's over, it's nice to kind of see what I have to deal with. I have a good idea of the shipping that I need to do, which is going to be a little burdensome, but it's all part of the job. So I think today was definitely more excitement rather than nerve-wracking, whereas those will come in the coming days when I see what people actually think of the book.
Right.
So if people finish it right away, probably a good sign, but
Right.
we'll see.
Right. All right, Bert and Callum watching. Hi guys, how you doing? Good to see you. Bo, what's up?
There he
Now,
is.
obvious more than just Caden joining me tonight. I've got a whole crew today. First, Catherine, thank you for joining me. And like what a wonderful happenstance that you're even here, right? Could you kind of talk about like how this happened and you joining us tonight?
Well, I think this is all thanks to connections on Twitter. Twitter. I don't know. I follow Balding, which is Mike's channel, and I think that's how I got connected with seeing your posts, Nicholas. And I get so excited whenever somebody is talking about a debut indie author or debut indie book. I was like, oh, I've got to be a part of this. And then I started looking at what the book was about, and I was like, oh, that's unique. That's original. So I've been super excited just to meet you, Kaden, and congratulations.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you too.
And of course, Rob, Brian, and Scott, we kind of, we sort of we've talked a little bit here and there, right? Scott, you want to talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
Our little group that we got going on?
Yeah. Well, we've a few months back, I guess it was just at the middle of October. A friend of mine, Josh Walker, we just decided we were talking on again a Twitter connection, and just desperately trying to make connections and desperately trying to be heard in the Twitter void. And we just decided, hey, let's get a couple of authors who are starting something new, all kind of maybe working on their first, second book, maybe just at the point of releasing a book, because there's just so much stuff to know and learn. And let's get together, let's get a little Discord, and let's lean on each other. And it just went from there. Caden was one of the very first people that we asked because he was very well making himself known in the Twitter world. Actually, the first thing I saw from Caden was him being accepted by Joe Abercrombie to use a quote of his, and I was like, I love this guy, like right from the
Yeah.
beginning. I was like, this guy, this is the kind of guy that we want on our side, and
Ballsy,
not just
man.
on
I
our side,
like
but
it. Just like,
to,
yeah, we like
to
as
learn.
his
This is a guy we can learn from. Obviously, he's got confidence and everything,
right.
and it just slowly went from there. And then after a while, we decided that we would cap the group um, before it got out of control, and so we could kind of form close friendships. Um, was kind of a thing, like, because obviously there's lots of bigger groups that you can
Sure.
make great connections with, but the intimacy and the closeness was something that was important. So we could, if you had a question, you could very well get it answered. And these guys are an incredible bunch of people, and honestly, it's just been great for all of us, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I feel so lucky that like I squeaked in literally a couple days before like you guys cut off like the number of people, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, no, it was
But
really great. We're great to have you, man. You've been an incredible asset.
well, thank you, sir. So yeah, tonight we want to talk about Caden, celebrate Caden's book, and talk about well, his book, his Kickstarter, the launching process, all that. Catherine's going to help me kind of ask Caden some questions. That's going to be fun. We also, of course, are going to talk about the break-ins. So what I first want to kind of do, let's do a little bit of introductions. Let's start with Rob and then Brian and then Catherine and then Scott and maybe me. And then we'll end with Caden. We'll get into talking Caden. You can go right in from introduction and talking about your book. And I know some of you also have already read Caden's book. So after he's kind of talking a little bit about the book, I want to hear a little bit about what your thoughts are on that book. So, and then we'll get into more a little bit later. We'll talk about the break-in some more also towards, the end. But Rob, tell us who you are. Tell us what you're working on. Tell us what's out there. Tell us everything, Rob.
Awesome. Well, hey, everybody. I'm Rob Lee. I am the author of the Pathlighter trilogy. Currently, only the first book is out right now. That is Pathlighter, released last November. But I'm currently working on book 2, title yet to be released, and also working on drafting a secret novella project, and just soaking up all the knowledge I can in the indieverse as well. So it's been a great ride, and I've really been enjoying it.
Love it. Love it. Just briefly, Rob, tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so book is called Pathlighter. It is a epic fantasy novel that is heavily inspired by Greek myth and legends, and it features gods and monsters, heroes and villains, and a lot of themes of found family, hope, betrayal, and quite a bit of adventure in there.
Nice. Sounds like a lot of fun. Brian, tell us all the things, man. Tell us what your what you've written, what you're working on, all that good stuff.
Hey everyone, I am Brian Wilson. So far, just one book published, the science fantasy book, The Forsaken Planet. You might see it up here. I'm not sure, maybe. But yeah, the second one of the series is called Power of the Stars. That's going to release April 16th of this year. And then I'm also hoping I've very early stages of hoping to get out. That'll kind of be book 2.0. It'll work as a standalone, but it'll be best between books 2 and 3. And it's just the series is a sci-fi space opera with a very core and a whole ancient alien mythology lore to it.
That sounds so my jam, Brian. I'm excited. I'm excited. I got, everyone, all 15 books from the rest of the break-ins on my TBR, and it's like, where do I even begin, but it's a good problem. It's a great problem. Scott, go ahead and tell me everything, and then we'll hear about from Catherine the same.
Okay, yeah, my name's Scott Palmer. As you guys, I've already introduced myself, but I'm the author of A Memory of Song, the first verse of the last ballad. It's set for release this coming May. This will be the first installment of a set 4-book series. There's going to be 3 novellas in between those books, and the first novella will be released almost immediately after the first novel, just a couple of months later. So that's a good-looking summer, and super excited to bring it to you guys.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Yeah, super excited to read that one too. Catherine, again, thank you for joining us tonight. Tell me a little bit about you, your books, also your YouTube channel. What you got going on?
Yeah, my pleasure, Scott. So I guess we'll be coming back to do something with you in May then.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, Catherine. Yes.
Yeah. And no, I'm Catherine D. Graham. I'm the author of the USA Today best-selling novel Splitting Dawn, which was in the Realm of Darkness box set in 2022. But the one I'm probably known most for is Vow the Twisted Fate, which is a epic fantasy. I tend to veer into dark epic fantasy novels with mythological fantasy thrown in, sometimes a romantic subplot, but not all of my books, and not always very happy endings. But very character driven, adventure style stories. I write as a hobby. I love what I do. I'm an editor for a day job for an
Oh,
editing company. And I have a booktube channel that's sort of small, but I love anybody who's watching who supports me. Thank you. Where I try to pay it forward to the indie community basically by sharing tools and tips for self publishing your books. And then I host indie author live chats and things like that and bring on industry experts to talk about ways we can do our publishing easier.
Catherine, you just got yourself booked like 16 more people for your indie author chats, right?
Every year around New Year's, we do a big blitz on my channel. And so this was the third year we did the New Year's Indie Book Blitz. This year, there were over 100 authors on the blitz over the course of 4 days. And it was all live, and I was very tired, but it was great.
You did how many over 4 days?
We had about 18 or 19 panels, and then 4 author interviews, and over 100 authors total.
Wow.
Dang, dude, that's
Just in case
amazing.
you need a TBR list mountain, like
Yeah,
some of us
right.
have.
Yeah. Have you heard of TBR Con, Catherine?
I had just heard about it on Matt Beard of Darkness's channel the other
Right.
day and was like, "Oh, I need to mark my calendar for this."
Right? Yeah, it's
So
pretty
that's why
cool
I was so
stuff.
excited, just meeting new indie authors. And so when I saw you, Kaden, I was like, "Oh, yay, new indie author, one of us,
One
one
of
of
us.
us."
One of yeah. Sounds like you almost organized your whole TBR Con like by yourself. That's amazing. Well done. Well, again, thank you for joining us.
My
So,
pleasure.
and just if you guys, I know you're on my channel, but if you don't know me yet, I'm Nicholas W. Fuller. I'm working on a debut novel. I'm one of the break-ins also, and I do videos on here, talking with other authors and other fun stuff. But the man of the hour, the one that we're all here for, Caden. Yeah, this is your debut book, but you already got you were dropping the title of the other one somewhere else, right? You were dropping yeah, huh?
Yep. So if you backed my Kickstarter, you have seen the title for my second book. I will reveal that on Twitter and other social media whenever I feel like it. Probably this week. I honestly was going to do it today, but then I'm like, I've been bombarded with so many notifications, and I bet people are so sick of seeing things about my book. So when it starts to die down a little, I'll put it out there. I'm super excited about it though. So when people ask, so you wrote this book, where are you at with the next one? The size of this book right now, I have about half of where it's at. So, like take half, got about that much written, a book
Okay,
two.
okay, solid.
But if you know anything about my publishing journey, this book is half the size of the original draft. So I'm planning to probably maybe times that 65,000 by 4 or 5, get it bigger. I ideally would like it to be a longer one because there are a lot more perspectives in it.
Well,
But yeah, besides that point, we're here to talk about the first book.
yes, and yeah, as Catherine had mentioned, you've got some unique elements in your book, right? Yeah. Talk to me about like kind of the premise and some of the things that are unique about your book. I tell you, like I read that first page on your Kickstarter and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing something here. All right.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people might be hesitant to read the book unless you're full grimdark, you love Joe Abercrombie and stuff like that. It might be your thing. And it is good. And I don't want to deter anyone away that might be squeamish or that they want something heavier, because I think it can appease both crowds. I do not put infant violence in there, if that was your big question. The basis of it is that, you take the time frame where this book is set. 10 years ago, a generation of children started to be born with a third intestine that granted them a plethora of abilities that we explore throughout it. 5 years later, so 5 years ago in the present sense of the book, they started harvesting these organs from these children to put them into adults because they thought that the adults would be able to use them to progress society, and that's the basis of it. It's organ harvesting and grafting from one generation to another, and the big split is when people are kind of divided over, is this something we want to allow? Some people start to rebel against what's going on, and it just kind of causes lots of drama. That's the basis of it.
I love it. So unique. Definitely haven't read that before. Bert's in chat, and he says, such a great book. Awesome. Bert, you the man. How did you get that idea though? Come on. Like, I mean, that is wild,
Mm-hmm. And I can remember when I was really thinking about the magic system. So I was wanting to write a book. I wanted a cool magic system, and the initial thought came with people eating plants, or like, they eat plants, they eat meat, and they extract this life force from what was living once before. And then I'm like, okay, what if we do some kind of magic system that is very focused on digestion, that they digest certain things, they'll bring it to them, and then it then evolved to, okay, what if we have a certain group of people that have this hyper digestion that, I mean, you can even look, there's a couple times I mentioned in there that it is like an evolved digestion. And that's where I got the idea. Okay, we have this part, throw in a third intestine that allows people to digest certain things that gives them these abilities. So it isn't as simple as, like people have this organ and it makes them X-Men suddenly. I tried to take a realistic thing at the beginning. We have there's certain types of what I call endowed. These are the people that are given the ability. And one, they're the gorgers. These are big, bulky guys. They're behemoths, but at the same time, they're not the dumb blockheads that you usually see, because I decided, I'm like, okay, here we have these people that can digest food so much, they gain so much for their body, but it also strengthens their mind. So I'm like, these guys are going to be great strategists. And other people we have where they can use this to change the pigment of their skin and the flexation of their vocal cords. That's where I got all of that. And I think it's fair to note that there is a lot of medical information in this, because I wrote this during my last year of nursing school. I'm currently working as a nurse for my day job. And so I had a lot of medical science on my brain. And I tried to avoid a lot of just me explaining info dumps. But there's one part in Fenmir right here, his second chapter, where he's talking with his son, and basically they're info dumping how this makes sense, because this is set in medieval times and they're not going to have the technology for organ transplants. And if you know anything about organ transplants, bodies naturally reject these organs. So I needed to make that feasible. It had to make sense somehow. And that is one that I left that conversation in there. I made it feel a lot more natural than it was originally written, but I kept it there.
Right. Nice. Wow. Super cool. All right. So I know some of you guys have already read it. Tell me, like, what was your takeaway?
Yeah, I read it. Like, I just finished it end of last week, so it was pretty fresh in my mind. But I thought it's actually not like Caden, like you said, it's really not as grim as like the description might lead you to believe. Not to say it's not like God, it's grimy moments where it's nice and but it's really not, like you said, there's no infant violence, and it's really more political. Like I really think that Caden captured the feeling of like medieval politics where they're just at each other's throats. They don't understand each other. They don't want to understand each other, and it's very much driving the plot and making the characters their decisions are very much tied up in that as well. So it's really interesting to see, like you said, like how you can really develop that dark idea without going down that dark road, and really pulled it off nicely. Like it feels very satisfactory when you kind of get all of the not the info dumps, but the information later on, and it all starts to piece together. And it's like, yeah, no, he did a very well job. It's almost like it wasn't his debut book, but it was. Maybe it's like he wrote like 2 books and cut it in half.
What an idea.
And
Yeah.
kept all the good stuff of the big one. But no, it's very tight. It moves along very nicely. I know you worked with Sarah Chorn, and I think that the two of you did an incredible job together at trimming it and getting it nice, because it doesn't feel like there's wasted words. So it takes a good chunk of words to explain what you're trying to do. So
Nice. It's just funny
Yeah,
you say,
and
like, it's surprised that it's his first book. HC Newell's in the chat going, launch day, and you're already so famous, Caden. Like, that's pretty
Yeah.
funny.
and I think that that's one of the biggest compliments that I've received. Like Bert in the chat, in his review, he was like, "This can't be your first book." And when people ask me that, I mean, I'm gonna be 25 in a couple days, and for people to think that like so much of this book, and I have a future that I want to achieve in writing, and this is only the first step. And for people to love that so much, it means the world to me. It is so cool to see.
No, it's well
Just
deserved.
sighing as
Well,
he says he's 25. Just have to.
Yeah.
Soak that one in. But
Right.
yeah, no.
Brian, I think you were gonna. Please.
Yeah, no. So I've only read about 20% of it, just to be upfront. I want feedback to Caden, but I had some other obligations I had to get to. But that 20% just absolutely gripped me. I didn't want to stop. If I didn't have these other promises I made, definitely wouldn't have stopped. But as a father with children, and as some all forms of government across the world, I just found myself fully into the story, and I think it's believable. Scott brought up how it's it works with believable to medieval times. I think it's almost believable today. If this happened today, I could see governments convince a populace that, oh, this is all for the greater good. This is
Right.
these children are surviving anyway, so we need to do this, give it to adults, and we can make the world a better place that way. I think that would absolutely happen. So
I love this idea that like this third and test and everything is so new in the world, and like and so I guess the story is very much how the world is reacting to this. That's super cool. Rob, what were your thoughts on kind of this magic system? I'm not sure if you've gotten too deep into the book, but I'm sure you have thoughts on this magic system already, right?
Yeah, so I like Brian. I'm still working my way through it. Some things have happened. I got sick a little bit ago, but it reminds me a lot of this David Cronenberg film, Crimes of the Future. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but it has to do with humans developing new organs and what that means for the future of the species. And I do agree with Brian. It works for a medieval setting, and it also works for an eerily dystopian future too. And the political aspect of it, and just how fleshed out this world is apparent right from the jump. I was zeroed in immediately once I started with it. I love how everyone has a in their own mind genuine rationale for the position that they take, and it's it's reminiscent of the first time I picked up Game of Thrones, where it's just everyone is so set in their worldview that you don't ever believe that there's the possibility of people sitting down and talking about it. How could they? So yeah, it's unlike anything I've picked up in years, and it's a breath of fresh air.
What a comparison! Like, yeah, the Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin here. All right, cool. Only at 25. Hopefully, you can finish 6 books. Let's get that going.
Yeah,
George.
I know, right? It's like, oh,
Had to make the joke. All right, Catherine, what are your thoughts hearing all this? I'm sure you haven't read the book yet.
No. I was just reading over the comments thinking, man, I feel like the one who's like at the steak dinner looking on the outside of the glass. Everybody else is talking about great book. So I'm going to have to read this one. But
Nice.
I was really impressed by your guts, really, if you'll pardon the pun in the context of the book.
Yeah.
When I first read what it was about and saw that you decided to go Kickstarter with it, I was just like, wow, that was a really bold and brave move, because if someone hadn't read the book, it could potentially come across maybe a little controversial, but at the same time it's really intriguing. So I was really curious about, what inspired you to go Kickstarter with it. And now, of course, it's paid off in just exponentially. Everybody loves it. So
yeah, and like he said, it is a book. I mean, before I go into Kickstarter, I recognize this book is going to be controversial. I wrote it very much not with any political goals, and I know certain people might interpret it some way. I don't want to offend anyone. I wrote this for entertainment and to spark thoughts. And, I think some people are going to be split on it, that much more so. I'm not saying that I'm Steven Erikson. I'm not saying anything close to Malazan, but it is a complex novel to get into. And I think that that's where a lot of people might be turned off from it. But if you give it time, it'll get in there. So
yeah, and you've already got Brian going anarchy. So
yeah,
I mean, that's good.
Exactly. So Kickstarter, being an independent author is such a crazy thing, because especially as a debut author, it's a year, like this last year, as I was getting the novel ready for publication, I learned so much. And one of the great things is that some of my favorite authors that are independent authors are so reachable, like Zamil Akhtar, Gunmetal Gods, Threadlight Series, Zach Argyle, Andy Peliquin. Like, these guys have been so great in helping me figure it out. And one thing that we need to recognize is there's no single way to do it. One of the early guys that I turned to is Michael Michelle, who wrote Price of Power, and he had a really successful Kickstarter for his debut. So I asked him a little about that, and I think that I kind of went wanting to do what he did. And a lot of people, especially those outside, just like family and friends, work associates, will ask me, oh, so you're like, you need this to fund it. And it's really, no, this is one where your money will be directly translated into purchasing the product, sending it there. And of course, I have to make a little bit of money.
And
because
just super brief, you've already the Kickstarter ended at 2:00, and you've already delivered some of the ebooks to the backers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I honestly felt a little bad too, because the book released today, and the people that pre-ordered it went right away. But I was like, oh, the Kickstarter backers, these are the guys that really believe me. I need to give it to them, so I sent it out right away. And honestly, I am doing everything that I can. I put the fulfillment date in April. If I can get it out to my backers by the end of next month, I'm going to do it. It's more so just to be comfortable.
Sure, but that turnaround on the digital is the fastest I have ever heard of on a Kickstarter. So like, killing it.
I know. And if any of you watched speaking of TBRCon, I was on a TBRCon panel earlier. And if you see that my eyes are like kind of distracted during that time, because my Kickstarter ended at noon, the panel started at 1, and I had 117 ebooks to send out. And so I was like, yes. And then when it turned to my time, I just focus on it. And, I was in the conversation and stuff, but that's one thing I want to do. I don't want to. I want to be the best author that I can, and just be a nice friend to people. So going back, I
A
was
nice
really
friend that just happens to harvest organs. No big deal. No.
Yeah, you know.
It's only a story. It's only a story. It's only
That's the thing that like some people like look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, he wrote a book," and I love my cover. It is the best I could ever ask for, and some people might look at it and think, it's not just a picture of a sword or something super dark and grim. So I might think, oh, this is a YA book. It's not. It is an adult fantasy. I didn't put a lot of explicit content in. I didn't put explicit content besides violence in there, but I wrote it with very complex themes. This isn't for just a high school kid to pick up. Sure, he can try, but there's a lot that'll probably go over their head, especially younger readers, and they might see me and think like, oh, this is a kid writing this. But I hope people give it a chance to see what it really is, because that's the only real way to look at it. So going back to Kickstarter, I was very spoiled. My wife is an illustrator. She did the cover. She's done all the graphics, all the stickers and bookmarks and stuff that are coming with it. And if you've heard of the Indie Fantasy Fund, Zach Argyle and Bookborn, another great YouTuber, they run this, and they loved my first chapter enough to give me a grant where I won Sarah's editing for this book. And so
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
every major cost you have covered. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going into this relatively debt-free. And honestly, what I hope to gain from the Kickstarter is just enough to pay for most of my next book's editing, which, will hopefully come towards the end of the year. But that's kind of, I went with Kickstarter because I saw the big bang that people were able to do with it. And I liked the format of it, and I like goodies. I plan on probably doing, especially with the success I had for this first book, doing it with the next book and doing a little more ahead. So all that I really included in this is I had some sticker pack that you could order. I had a bookmark. And then because my wife had already done a couple of illustrations, I had her do one more for the end. And I just included them in the book. I had them as stretch goals. And so when it first started taking off, I'm like, how big is this going to get? And I talked to a friend that has like a laser engraver, and I'm like, could you do like an engraving of, so if you read it, like the chapter headings are, oh, that one's super. Oh, it's on my phone. You'll see these little crests, and I'm like, could you do that on like a D20? And we didn't get enough for that. But honest, if we do well enough, those are the kind of things. Like I just love cool little things, and I plan on, running a shop on my website where I have things like that. And so I think that's one of the things that appeals for me for Kickstarters is just the
goodies, the extras.
You get the book, and especially like the really like the cool big leather bound collector's editions have been a big thing recently.
Yes.
And just seeing what they've done and that they can make it big, I was like, let's give it a try. It's a big opening, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I am so excited to get Zach Argyle's Threadlight. That like, oh my god, that looks so beautiful.
Yes,
but
I know, like, because so when Patrick Leo posted today that he had it, I'm like, I live like, just a couple states away. Where's mine?
Yeah. So Christopher Navo's in the chat. He says, first he says, happy launch day, Kaden. So thank you. I'm sure Kaden says, but nice to see you, Christopher Navo. He also says, I love the cover. I get Arcane vibes from it. Nice.
And I was talking to my wife about it. I'm like, people are comparing this, like they think it looks like Arcane, and I'm like,
yeah, bro.
This is another selling point that I can just go for.
Arcane comparisons, Game of Thrones comparisons. Like, I mean, you're gonna have to start setting the bar lower at some point. If it was me, I'd be like, oh guys, no, but
yeah.
Bo Kelly, I made the joke about the organ harvesting. Bo Kelly says you're the best friend whose house you never want to stay over at night at.
Yeah.
Skylar Rushton says, "When's the animated show coming out?" That might be, a couple Kickstarters in the future, I think. Uh, Callum asked, "How much of the world did you create before you started writing versus as you went?" So I guess part of that question, another way to phrase it, are you more of a planner or pantser?
So I'm trying to think exactly when I got everything flushed out. So before magic even became the idea, if you've read the book, the government is something unique that I completely came up with myself because I wanted to. There is no single monarch. There are 6, you can call them city states, fiefdoms, countries, whatever. I call them courts. Each one, this is, so we'll go back, take a step back. The original idea of this book is, I am a religious guy. I'm not going to hide that. And I was like, so if, in religious systems, we have certain virtues that we look for. We want humility. We want obedience, love towards others. And I was like, okay, what if we get a place where each of these groups, I ended up with 6, focuses on one attribute that they go to the extreme, that, I needed flaws there. So we have the chessmen. The first character you meet, he's from court chess. These people see, they see love over the law. They mercy over justice. And, that is where they don't have a perfect justice system there. And we go to another one, court zays, where they are focused on perfection, being the best of the best. And that is the definition of Aerie, my female main character. That is where her flaw comes from. She tries to go to this too hard. And so that was the world. The world is these people that focus on these attributes so much that it becomes their flaw. And when I had that idea, I started off with that, and I got the background, the magic system, and that, the main character, he is going to go against what he's been doing for years. And so I went with that, and the world kind of built itself as it came along. I knew there had to be a big battle, a big climax. We get to that, and that's later in the book. But I do like to plan out. I know how the series is going to end. I know how book 2 is going to end. I know things that need to happen, but I don't know exactly how it's all going to be there. So if you look at my outline, book 2 is pretty complete. I know what needs to happen at the end. And I have, let's say, the next 5 or so chapters lined out, what needs to happen. So I've got a skeleton, and then I'll fill out as I go in. And certain things will just happen, and it goes with it. In the original book, when I was going through it, I didn't have planned that I had a foul-mouthed 10-year-old shapeshifter, Voln, wolf mask right there. And he's one of my favorites. Like, he's just someone that it came in there. And there's another character that can speak with animals, and he becomes kind of a side character to go into just kind of help progress the story. Runith is his name. And he ends up becoming the main character of my prequel novella and a point of view character in the second book. So I just really go with the flow. I know things that need to happen, but I'm willing to change them. And when I go back and make changes, I don't, of course I try to avoid the really big things. But most of mine is like, I'd say relaxed planning.
Sure. Yeah. There was one book I tried to write, and I felt like I outlined too much, and then the writing got to be very not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Need a little bit of wiggle room. So, Catherine, you asked about Kickstarter. I'm sure you got some other questions, things that you wanted to know. Go ahead.
Oh, goodness. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna put you right on that spot.
well, you'd think that after doing so many interviews, you'd just be used to all of these things, but no, it's fun. you never get used to them, but they're always fun. So I was actually interested in knowing, Kaden, if you've been a part of this group on the team since square one. Have they been a part of your writing journey, or is this something where you wrote the book and then you were like, "Hey, so I have a book," and then they were like, "Whoa, this is who Caden's been this whole time." Like, what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, so I really got to be a part of the writing community, I think, when I jumped on Twitter. The initial stages was like the very first step was I don't know if you've ever heard of Keon Arladon wrote the 11th Cycle, and I saw his cover and just like how he's pitching. I'm like, this looks so cool. And I was following Library of a Viking, one of my favorite YouTubers, and he posted that he got the book. And so I reached out to Keon, and he was like, I was like, hey, I have some questions about publishing. Like, could you answer them? And he was nice enough to sit down. He's like, let's do just like, a FaceTime. We just talked for like 2 hours, and he was the one that actually convinced me to go self-pub. He helped me get into a couple Discords. So Indie Accords was one of the first ones I got into. I was just kind of like, dwindling around on there. But it wasn't until I got Twitter that I really became part of the community. And I was looking for some people to do some cover reveals last summer. And FanFi Addict has been a hero for me. Everyone there has been so amazing. And Lord TBR, captain of it all, he did my cover reveal along with some other bloggers. And I think that that's just really how I got in there. And so people knew I had a book coming out. And I originally planned in October, but it came out today. And I think just working on that, like I like to say when people ask me like, oh, how'd you get such a big following? I'm like, oh, so I work on networking, but really it was reading indie books, posting on how much I love them, and just like being a positive force in the community. Like just even if I wasn't going to be able to get to a book that looked cool, I'd retweet it and be like, oh, this was definitely on my TBR. And, if I read a book that I loved, I just talk about it a lot. And, eventually you start making those connections. And then it gets to the point where my book's getting pretty much ready, send the arcs out, and I had a good enough base. And that's where, the break-ins invited me in because I built my social presence there. And so it was honestly a lot of early days Discord, and then just Twitter, just reaching out. If anyone is looking to make good connections, I always tell them just reach out to authors you look up to. And, I'm always available if people want to ask me for questions. Especially with the Kickstarter success, I've had people ask me like, how'd you do this? Things like that. And you just need to know, like, don't feel bad if people don't get back to you, because now I see that so much. It's like, okay, I have so many things here. I have to learn to set these aside, sometimes focus on my life. But, people are happy to help.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Keon, man. Like I connected with him on some Discord at one point, like in late 2022. And I need to go back and get in touch. But that dude, like, I had no idea who he was, but I had like posted some story and he's like, hey, I got a few suggestions. And like they were fantastic. So Keon's a good dude. Love it. Brian, I think you had kind of some questions for Kaden.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't. my one question, which I should probably know this, but is it going to?
Yes. So when people ask me what this series is going to be, I tell them I'm pulling Ryan Cahill. So I have my prequel novella. It is called Beast Call. It is done. It's just I'm going to get it to my editor when she has time. I am planning probably like mid-spring. And that one's going to translate to like 50 pages. I love it. I think it's super cool. And then my plan is, ambitious. This is ambitious Kaden. This isn't Kaden really planning things out. I would love to have book 2 out by the end of the year. I would love to have it out by January next year, the same time. If it comes out later next year, that's okay. And then I want to, in between each book, have a novella where it just focuses on another character from the series or something else. And I think novellas are really fun. It gives me a chance to really explore the world and not feel really stressed with content itself. So yeah, you guys will see the reveal of book 2. I mean the title later. The cover. I was talking to my wife today. We started kind of throwing out a couple ideas, but yeah, I know everything is going to happen. It pretty much in that book, and then book 3. Yeah, whenever I can get to it.
Nice.
But yeah,
Sick.
trilogy with novellas.
Bert in chat says, "There goes my TBR." My bad there, Brian. Rob, you had a question. You definitely had a question.
I did. I'm a huge sucker for like fantasy creatures and monsters and stuff, and I always like asking other authors like what their process is for developing or kind of formulating what those are going to be. Like, is it more of a form thing, like how it fits into the world, like the utility of that creature, or is it whatever you think, like if it goes from like a visual perspective or what you think presents like a nice challenge for the characters that run across these creatures? What's the ground zero for developing those? Because you have some interesting creatures in this world.
10 seconds. Oh, I just need to do something real quick.
Right,
Sorry to jump out.
That's right. We call him Kaden Bold Love for a reason.
Kaden Bold.
Yeah.
Started for his
while
first book,
he's
tweeting
out.
live Joe Abercrombie for a quote.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
So
I
if we
dig
get a
it.
quote from Kaden now, is it like I've gotten a quote from the guy who got a quote from Joe Abercrombie?
That's right. That's right, Catherine. That's what I should. That's a great. I'm going to do that. Don't
That's
tell
so
him.
funny. Bo keeps calling Caden Dr. Love, and he says Dr. Love has to go
Dr.
save a
Love.
patient.
Kaden's wife
Oh.
did such a good job on that cover that I'm like, man, I wonder if she's going to start taking commissions.
Right?
Yeah.
We asked. She's busy, but you can try.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll treat you nicer.
All right,
Okay.
Caden, you gotta wait now. You gotta wait, mister. I got a question for Brian and Catherine, actually. Someone in chat, because Caden, so someone in chat asked, question for everyone involved. How, as authors, have you all approached finding artists for your book covers? How did you foster those professional relationships? Turns out Caden, is very, very interested in fostering his relationship with his cover artist. But Brian and Catherine, a little bit different scenario. Tell me, Catherine, you want to go first? Talk about what you've done for covers?
Well, I have not had the fortune of getting my other half to take our love to that level yet. But
right?
I have 2 main designers. It depends on whether the books are going to be one of the ones with the romantic subplot in them or the ones that are dark epic fantasy. One does like photo manipulation style covers. So
hang
on
on,
my Rose Gambit series, it's mostly custom drawn, and then it has some photo manipulation turned in with it. And then I use MIBL art or Mibble art for a lot of my covers that have the romantic subplots, like Splitting Dawns was done by Mibble art as a custom. Because they're really affordable, and they turn their stuff around really fast, and you don't have to pay them until you like your cover.
That's right.
cool.
And I know Gunmetal Gods done by Mibble art. Right, Caden? The Gunmetal God.
Oh,
We're done with covers.
oh yeah, I love
I
those
know
ones.
exactly. But I was like, these covers are amazing. Who made these?
Yeah, I didn't know that. If I can do a quick plug, real quick.
Go for it.
Hey, come here. This is Seema for everyone. This is the artist. If everybody has questions, if anyone has questions about cover art or like the art itself, she is here, and like you can reach out to her, and she is looking for commissions. So trying to get into the book community. So there you go.
There you go. But you've definitely got fans of your cover. You did good work.
Thank you, because I was a little nervous about that one because I've only done covers for YA mostly, and I've never done a cover for like adult audience. So I was hoping that I would manage to communicate to the right audience.
I don't want to reveal things for Kaden, but knowing what the title is for his next book, I'm very interested to see what you're going to do for that cover.
I'm interested to see too. I don't know. We'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is there any like hidden meaning behind the veil, like the curtain? Are you guys trying to hide something? Slowly reveal.
Yeah, I think it does have some meaning to it in a sense that okay, so like my main point what I was trying to communicate with this cover was the two sides of the argument, if you can call that conflict, and a kind of veil of secrecy because we don't know how this all happened and started and why, and maybe that's why I chose to add that element.
Yeah. No, I like the how it goes into the back. Like you said, it shows the two sides. You can see the peaceful city and then the people, overlooking the peaceful city on the other side. It's like, oh, and then I know our good friend Bibliotheory pointed out the secret in the top right corner.
Yeah, like so. I mean, the premise of the book, and some people might just like look at that and be like, "Oh, interesting," and then you read the premise and you see that there's a baby right there. And I wanted it. Of course, it's like a magnet. It's like, "Oh, look at that!" But then she was telling us, like, "What if we put a baby there?" And I'm like, "Boom!"
Yes. No, perfect.
Okay, well, nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, you as well.
Meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. Get that. Kaden, if you can make sure that you get your headphones back on, I think. Yeah, like.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I hear you fine.
And okay, perfect. Yeah, with the head, we got a little bit of an echo for a while there, but now we're good. Brian, tell me about your cover process. Are you married to your cover designer too? Did it just work out that way for you also?
No, I'm not. So my cover is probably different from most people in the indie circle, at least maybe the fantasy aspect, maybe not, I don't know. But so my story, I was working on it for almost 20 years before it actually got published, and I actually purchased my cover 17, I think it was before any of my kids were born, and it was actually a made cover just from a site I found online. I think I went on some forum and they gave recommendations, and I went on the site, but then I had them make slight alterations. It was a very sci-fi cover. I talked to the designer in collection, and we changed the font a little bit, and I add some colors to the bottom around the planet of mine, just the kind I wanted it to get the fantasy feel as well, because mine's very much a sci-fi fantasy genre blend. And it seems. And then for my second one, she was so great the first time, I wanted to work with her again. And that was after I reached out 5 years later to add some things to the one, and she fantastic. And so we customized. The second one was more customized, and everything went great.
Oh, sorry.
Nicholas, how
Sounds
about
like-
you? How about your covers?
So still in development.
I've got to try.
Guys, let me know in chat. Okay,
Rob's got a
I
good
think.
cover. Talk about your cover, Rob.
Oh,
Everyone knows it's hot right now.
yeah, I went through get covers for the design, but I was lucky enough to be able to work with Felix Ortiz for the cover art. So, the design around that was very easy to do. You just you put the title and the name where Felix's art isn't. Let the art shine and do its thing. But very, very lucky to get to work with him, and then Get Covers is very, very easy to work with as well. Highly recommend them for indie authors who may be like me and want to foot the bill for really, really good art, but may not have the scratch to follow up with the design. So
yeah, Catherine, I was really close to going with Mibble art, actually, funny enough. And like kind of last minute I was talking with my wife and we decided, looking at a Ryan Cahill cover, that I was just going to call up Stuart Bache and just use the designer that I wanted. And I was very happy with the outcome. So it was kind of good thing. Like, I think it's important to think about it. Obviously, Kaden didn't have to think about it at all, but he already knew he had the exact right person. So, I mean, like you said, it really is someone that can vibe with your vision a little bit, right? And kind of bring it to life if however possible.
Yeah, I think Kaden had a harder job of it though, because when you work with somebody that you love, and I have family members who are editors, so I say this from experience. When you work with somebody that you love, you still got to put out a professional product, and they do professional work, but sometimes your vision can differ from your loved one's vision. So putting that through it a way that it's like, here's my vision, but then that also celebrates their talent. Like, Kaden, your wife's art is amazing. And I can imagine that could potentially lead to some tension there if it was like, well, it's not where I was going or what I imagined the genre or something. So it's like, it may be free, but a little extra tension.
She's like, put a baby, and he's like, no.
I don't like that.
Hey, did she do all the chapter headings as well?
Yes, she did. So, and that's the cool thing that I do wonder how it would be working with just like a straight author. Because so what I did is she was like, okay, I need to have her. She's like, okay, I need to get some inspiration for what the characters look like. And so I just went on Pinterest and looked up like these things, and I had a couple actors in mind. So if you look at Aerie, like I have my whole cast set if they ever want a movie. Rosamund Pike in The Wheel of Time was awesome, and I'm like, okay, this is what I want her to look like. Dev Patel is like an awesome actor, and like when he looks a little younger, like Slumdog Millionaire kind, I'm like, that's kind of what I want. And then Fenmir is just like kind of a mix of a bunch of people. But the chapter headings, I had to explain all the creatures. Like, we'll get to Rob's question, and because all of them are unique creatures, like none of them are real animals, which there are real animals in the world, but I had to explain a lot of like what they look like, and I have this vision in my head, and just how she translated, it's like that is what I wanted, and all of them are perfect.
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, you're right. Like, I forgot Rob asked that question, and then you totally just bounced. But
I forgot I asked it too.
Yep.
So is that
guys,
kind of?
I gotta head out of here. The old man of the break-ins has to go get his sleep, be up early. Caden, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to watch this thing just keep thriving over the next months and years and all that. So congrats again, buddy.
Thank you. And everybody, Brian's second book is coming out soon. Might as well get on the first one now.
Nice.
Thank you. Later, guys.
Have a good night, Brian. Thanks for coming.
Yep. See you, Brian.
I like the way you phrased that too. He didn't say, Caden, you've got all this hype to live up to now. You got comparisons with George R. R. Martin and everything. You got to live up to that. Just kidding.
Hey, I'll touch on that. Caden's done, like, he's mentioned he's got all of these boosts, you could say, these stepping stones into the industry. But he has done all of his work in taking advantage of those. Like, he has not missed a step in taking with them. So I think we definitely have to commend him on that. And you couldn't have chose Bookborn and Zach Argyle if you're watching this. You could not have chose a better person for that prize, because he is taking that and, like I said, he's owning it. And it's any success that comes from it is it's not luck at this point, right? So you've done a great job, my friend.
We gotta respect the grind, Bo Kelly says. Absolutely.
Grind, man.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Killing it. So I think that kind of leads into another question. Well, in that all of us are out here grinding, right? All of us are trying to make our dreams happen. and some of us are doing it together now. Scott, you're one of the OG of the break-ins, right? Tell us, you were kind of talking about in the beginning how you and Josh, I guess you connected on Twitter, and you were like, "Hey, what are we doing?" I think that's how it
Yeah,
all started, right? Tell me more.
and funny enough, like we are not like some elite group of like the best writers.
Oh
We were
no.
people who did not know what we were doing. We were very open in saying, "Hey, we could use help, and let's
Hey.
pool each other's resources because everyone has a different strength, right? Like everyone, and Caden mentioned this earlier. There's no one way to do this. So if you put 16 writers, authors in a room together, and each one of them tells you their journey, the amount of knowledge that we've accumulated together is just unbelievable. And it really, we took a hint from Kaden Bold Love and asked Caden to join in the first place because he was probably way ahead of Josh and I. And we are like, "Hey, Caden, you want to come bum around here and tell us a couple things about what you did?" And he was more than happy to join, incredibly enthusiastic. And it was the same with the other members that we just kept asking, like, Zach Diamante and Adrian Gibson, and obviously our buddy Rob here too. Rob was like a week away from release. We were like, he's not even going to want to join our group. He's already releasing his book. We're like, and he's like, "Oh, guys, thank you so much." Like, and it was really interesting to see like all of us kind of just vibe so much off of each other's presence. It was like really kind of this thing where, like you said, we're all just grinding away for so long working on these books, and you keep hitting these different precipices on your way. Your first draft of your first book, and then you realize I've got to do another draft, and then you get like, I've got to do more than one draft, and you just kind of keep making these. And on your journey, you find people, and it kind of seems like you find people, and then some people kind of fall behind. And it was interesting to see all of us kind of in the exact same spot at the same time, all on Twitter, poking around FanFi Addict, poking around all of the book bloggers and the reviewers, just like I said, trying to get heard. And
Right.
it was just interesting to get together, and we're like, let's just share each other's stuff, support each other. And if 16 people are all sharing stuff, it kind of breaks that posting into the void feeling. I think there's a real statistic that nobody wants to be the first person to like something. So if you're just posting something that's got no likes, it's really hard, right? So it really helps to just have a couple friends supporting you and stuff, and obviously we do our best. We're all very busy and we support each other everywhere we can. But if there's ever a big day like today, we've got a calendar that we use that keeps us organized. So we all know each other's big dates, so we can make sure to support each other in that way. And that's really what it is. It's just a support group that has just kind of, we're faking it till we make it. Like we made ourselves seem like more than we were. I'll be completely honest. And now though, we have the confidence that we really are what we're telling people that we are. That we've together we are a powerhouse of, like I said, we have 16 different ways of publishing that we can look at and pull different little tidbits from each thing. So I won't ramble on too much. That's pretty much it. But
I love it. I love it. And so, yeah, couldn't agree more. Sam, one of our other break-in friends, is in the chat, and he's giving everyone like heist crew titles. I love it. Like he says, like Caden Bold Love is the friend maker, Scott is the heart, Josh is the organizer, Adrian's the insider, and then Callum says Sam is the comedian. I love it. I love it. I need to like that
Sam
needs to
hates
go in
taxes.
like our intro reel or something, right?
Yeah. No, that's great. And
That's
like you
pretty
said,
good.
Sam, taxes, like we get into the nitty gritty. We're not just sitting there passionate stuff about craft. We're like, guys, I need to pay taxes. How the hell do I do this? Because I've never done this before. And then of course Sam Pace is like, well, you need the T4 from Amazon. Okay, see, this is why we're together. We need to pull this information because it saves us, if somebody might know it, it saves us the time of going and maybe getting misinformation. We can use each other. We've seen each other be successful, and we can just ask the questions that are necessary, right?
Yep. Yep. Love it.
It's also great marketing, or not necessarily marketing, but oh shoot, I'm missing the word now. It's a great networking option, availability too, because meeting all these great people who are doing the same thing that you do, first off, shows you that you're not alone, and then also gives you a path to maybe something that you hadn't tried before, or something that may work better that we're doing, and gives you the confidence to do so as well. I, contrary to what Scott said, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what was going on. So I was incredibly grateful to be able to be part of this group, and to have the reassurance that we're all in it together, and we're all here to hype each other up and help each other. And I'm just looking forward to everything that the group has to share in the future. So
Yeah, I know. We got some different stuff coming up. I'm excited. I don't think we want to announce anything yet, but it's gonna be an exciting year for the Break-ins, that's for sure. Not least of which is gonna be my debut, but no. Kaden, what else you want to tell us about Elegy before we wrap up?
Okay,
give us a nice tight elevator pitch for someone that's on the fence about, man, should I check out this kid? I mean, like, listen, we've all been kind of talking about you pretty well this whole hour, but still, like, if someone's like, I just don't know, what's your way that you're gonna like kind of hook them and bring them in, and what do you want readers to know about you and Elegy?
Yeah, I think a lot of things I can go for is, it wasn't until Library of a Viking wrote it that it pointed out that it's a dystopian fantasy. And this is not Hunger Games, it's not Divergent, but it is something like it's a different society. And I think it can bring in people from that. One thing that I really want people to know about it is that I wrote this book with the idea that no one is just pure evil in it. Even the worst characters think they're doing what is right. If you've heard me talk about villains, there are some good villains, and if there's a bad villain, completely turns me off from the story. As a child, Despicable Me is a fun movie, but Gru is a horrible character because no one is bad just because they want to be the baddest of them all. Like, nobody wants to be a bad person. They want gain for some reason. And like, I don't think it's until pretty late in the book that you figure out who you really see as a villain, what people are kind of going. And there's people that you won't really see as villains until later on in the series. There might be a point where you have two characters that you love that are pitted up against each other. I have both people on both lines. And I think that's something that was really cool about Gunmetal Gods is it's a story told with two people on both sides of a war. So you have Joe Abercrombie's books that are morally gray characters. This is just a morally gray novel. Even the main character is, I guess you could say Fenrir is kind of the main character in this because he's the first one that we get introduced to. He's a hypocrite, and you get to see in his mind that he wants to do something, but he doesn't always fulfill it. And I think that's what the purpose of this book is, that I'm not trying to convince you to believe or see something, but I want you to question the whole time. I want to spark thought. Like, I think having big ethical dilemmas is something interesting. And if anyone's ever heard of the trolley dilemma, and I don't know if everybody really knows about it, so I've tried to like pitch it as that, but then people are like, wait, what is that? But you have the train track going, and it goes one way, and it runs over like your most beloved family member. The other way it goes and it runs over two random strangers. Which way do you go? And it's an uncomfortable thing to think about. And that's a lot of what this is. It's like, do we harvest this organ from this child who will likely die, but the process of harvesting that organ will kill the child to give it to an adult who can do good for society? And I'm just really interested to see people's opinions. That, there is definitely a side that towards the end you're kind of like, okay, I'm with these guys, but I still want you to question like the other guys, like, they have some ground. And so that's there.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Joshua's in the chat. He says your characters are so good, Kaden. Ari for the win.
Yeah.
Catherine, you have any kind of closing thoughts or questions or anything you want to leave folks with? Again, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I've really loved being a part of this tonight. I know you guys have such a tight knit group, but you're so open and encouraging,
Oh, yeah.
and I think that adds to what makes your books more like on the top of my reading list, as opposed to there's so many good indies, and it's like I can't pick my favorite indies. Like in
Right.
Swiftbow last year, it's like, oh, now I have 300 books from the same publisher. It's a lot not to read, but
Yeah.
no, I appreciate just how open and honest you were bringing us into your group, and Kaden even going so far on your launch day to tell other aspiring writers how they can find their community, how they can do their book, and all the passion for your book and you celebrating your wife and her role. So thank you for sharing this with us and for bringing this book to the world. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Aaron, what's up in chat? How you doing? Aaron, you got any questions for Caden before we wrap up? Rob, any kind of closing thoughts? Any closing questions? Scott, same.
I just have to say that you put an incredible amount of work into this, Caden. We can see that day in and day out, not just from your marketing of the
Look
book
away.
and the pride that you take in this book, but every single aspect from the very first chapter, from your beautiful glossary at the beginning. It's inspiring to see, and we're excited for you.
You got him right in the feels, dude. Did you see that? He was like, oh, my feet. Yeah. Good job. Good job. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, no, same thing, Caden. Like, honestly, like I said, I wanted to reach out to you and connect to you months back to learn from you because, like I said, Kaden Bold Love, the first tweet I ever saw was Joe Abercrombie, like, have at it. Like, who is this guy? Like, so, it's really, it honestly is an honor that you were, like you said, you are very humble. Sorry, like Catherine said, you are very humble about the whole thing. And it's really amazing. Like, you could be standing on your high horse, like, $4,000, baby. Let's go. Not that way at all. You're completely, a very humble person. And you've been great to get to know. And even with like 25 is not that young, but I mean, in the comparison of everything to other people writing books, of course, you're very young. You've got a long career ahead of you. So I'm glad to be on the ride with you, man. Like, I'm excited to see where you can take this series.
Thanks.
You've really got a lot on the table for you.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Agree with both of you. It's a fun ride. It's good to be a break-in, man. Good to be a break-in. And you're killing it, obviously, Caden.
Thanks.
Can't believe, yeah. Like, so did you good on the Kickstarter? I'm sure you're doing good on day one. Pretty cool to see. Pretty cool to see. Well, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you, Catherine, for kind of jumping in, and you guys, of course, jumping in on short notice. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you
Nicholas,
for
for
hosting.
doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're incredible, man.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh, my feels.
We're just all great here.
Yeah.
Let's go
Oh,
the
yes.
break-ins from
Yes.
Bibliotheory. Yes, sir. What a great way
Let's
to
go,
close it out.
Biblio.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's go, Biblio.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Everyone have a good night. And hey, if no one's told you yet today, you're an absolute legend.